I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, March the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Brought to you in part by Vitalix. Their feedlot starter tub offers 20% all-natural, high-quality protein. Give it to your cattle the first 21 days after arrival. Get the blue tub. Visit Vitalix.com. The negative basis, and I've been harping so far this week about how cash is not keeping up with the board. Your board is launching out there and had a lot of support here in the last couple of weeks, but cash is just not keeping up. A lot of it due to your disappointing cash fat cattle market, which has just been loitering around 113 to 114 for the last 6 weeks or so, and then just can't move up. But your feeder market too, we're at the back end of March now, and your March feeder cattle contracts is still well over 136 and a half, and you just can't get that in the sale barns, especially in the country or any other place for 800-pound feeder steers. But also on your live cattle pitch, we've got, even though it was down almost $1 on Tuesday, still got April live cattle at 118.20. And we don't even know if we're going to be able to get 114 this week. Well, that's a problem. And for the guys that are hedged up, you go a year or two out ago, and we were enjoying these positive basis all the time. Your board was always settling at $2 or $3 or $4, or maybe even $5 back of what your cash market was. Well, if a guy's had a straight up hedge on those cattle, they got to sell those cattle, and then they picked up those other dollars on their hedge. But now, whenever you've got a short position on your fat cattle, your live cattle market there, and you're selling cattle well under what the board is, well, then it's costing you another $3 or $4 to get out of your hedge there, and it's really not working well for those guys at all. And that's one reason that we don't see guys attacking these feeder cattle now, because they look like they might hedge. But if you're working with a negative basis and you're starting to get used to that, and you're growing very weary of those, used to guys would kind of hedge on a positive basis, or they would bet on one. They think, well, these cattle will kind of wash as far as what they look like on paper, pick up another $2 or $3 on my basis, and I'll be in good shape. Well, that's not working anymore, and guys are getting frustrated with that. The other reason they're not going after these cattle, feed costs. And we've got cost of gains now, depending on what part of the plains you're in, but it's going to be probably around $1.05 somewhere. It's going to be $1 or more, probably $1.05, maybe $1.10, depending on what your weather's like and things like that. And that is really slowing guys down quite a bit. We had some crazy analysts coming out and saying that, corn was going to be $12 a bushel or something crazy like that. Now, I think, and people were sharing that on social media and scaring the hell out of people. But we've kind of seen some things going on here lately. We're getting some moisture in South America. We kind of know what our usage is going to be. And then soon we're going to find out how many acres of the stuff we've planted, and it's likely to be big. And so we're probably going to keep things under wrap, barring anything that really comes out of nowhere. If it gets horribly dry, but they've had a lot of snow in the Midwest. They're getting a lot of rain in the Midwest right now. The next thing they probably talk about is it's going to be too wet to get planted like they want to get. But I would take having to postpone planting over dry fields anytime. But we're likely going to get things kind of under wrap somewhere in the low $5 a bushel on corn from now on until we get to new crop. So that should settle things down a little bit. But I tell you what, until some guys have had some closeouts with the feed costs that we're facing right now, it's probably going to be hard for them to actually believe it. But guys are really facing it now, because we've had high corn for quite some time, and pretty much the whole feeding period on the last set of cattle that they've had. But we've kind of got a battle here between feed costs and our grid-based marketing. We got so many people that enjoy gridding these cattle, and it's worked pretty good so far when we had cheap feed costs. But taking those cattle away 1,500, 1,600 pounds, and your plant's not charging them any kind of a penalty for taking those cattle to those high carcass weights. Well, what's happened? Well, the cattle grade really well, and so that makes them grid really well. Well, how's that going to work, taking them to them giant weights where they're very inefficient in their feed costs? Their cost of gains, would probably be $1.30 to $1.50 on that last 100 or 150 pounds. You got to axe that off of there, guys. Get back to marketing them cattle at a reasonable weight. And that's why we say it would help the feeder cattle market, because guys will be going back to the well to get feeder cattle more often if they started marketing them cattle at a reasonable weight. But we've just got used to cattle grading way too well. Historically, we never saw cattle grading over 80% choice or better. That's not reasonable. That's not something that's really feasible either. And unless you're taking those cattle to those obese, overfinished weights, you're not going to see that. So as we back off from that a little bit, then your grid-based marketing is not going to be quite as advantageous, and even as much as the guys like to plus the market, sell them on the grid, pull the rug out from under the guys that are trying to get some leverage in the cash market, and then you come back and plus them $2 or $3. And as good as that makes some of these guys feel, it may not be working that well going forward unless you want to have inefficient feeding of the cattle. Let's talk about your board on Tuesday. April live cattle futures down 92 cents, so backing off a little bit. I think everybody else is seeing that we're just not going to be able to catch those with your cash market. At 118.20 for your April spot there. June down 32 cents at 121.45. Could be some deliveries coming up here in April, especially with the next out being that much higher, but not sure if that taking those delivery cattle worked for anybody, because we were unable to gain any ground in your fat cattle market for the last round of deliveries that we saw. And it's just when those deals never work, you kind of lose that option. Look at your out fronts on your live cattle pits, up 7 cents to up 47, but consistently higher. March feeder cattle down just 45 cents at 136.57. April down 60 cents at 143.32. The far backs on your feeder cattle were pretty inactive, from down 12 cents to up 12 cents, just not really much going on in your back months on your feeder cattle. Grains were higher, but just modest gains there, 3 or 4 cents, not amounting to too much at all. Fat cattle, we started to try to trickle a little bit of trade on Tuesday, but nothing really significant. We saw one load confirmed in Iowa, mixed bag cattle at 178 dressed. That's nothing. Nebraska actually posted 0 confirmed sales as were turned in 2:30 in the afternoon. Did hear some rumors of a few cattle starting to sell at 114 later on in the afternoon. We'll see if that comes to fruit. Did hear of a string of cattle in Nebraska that sold for the first half of May at 122. Now, like I say, it's hard for me to envision your market getting that high, but whenever you offer those carrots for guys out there, that ensures that your market will never get that high, because your needs from the packers will be very, very light, because they've got so many captive supplies to get them through this lower amounts of market-ready cattle. Kansas had just some junk, a few mixed deals, some dairy cross cattle at 98 live, some grid-based cattle there at 176 base, but not a lot going on there. Texas had 0 confirmed sales on Tuesday, and even the Texas pool was canceled because they this week they established that they're really going to need 1,000 head of those cattle to sell on that adjusted live grid-based price there, and for the sealed bid deal. And if they can't get 1,000 of them, it's really not worth doing. 1,000 head is sure not much to ask, but they did not meet that minimum requirement this week. We'll see if they do going forward. Box beef cutout values were higher. They were drifted lower there all of last week, and we said it was going to turn around pretty fast. Well, it looks like it's already turned around. Choice cuts 226.93 on Tuesday afternoon. That was up 216. Select's up 72 cents at 218.77. Your slaughter, we've got some maintenance and stuff going on, so it's going to be a little bit disappointing. 228,000 through Tuesday, 14,000 less than last week, 13,000 less than the same week a year ago. Look at what else is going on. Going to be traveling now to Nevada here on Wednesday. Got a speaking engagement there at Nevada Livestock Marketing, 6 o'clock here on Wednesday evening. So if you guys are somewhere in the area, be sure to make your way over to Fallon to the sale barn there in town, and we should have a pretty good time there. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets. Real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Tuesday at 133.30. That was up a nickel per hundredweight, so pretty much steady. Now I did see several markets that were higher on Tuesday, so you know that should blend in, but you know we're dropping. It's on a 7-day moving average, so we don't see that right away. But I saw some sales that looked pretty promising, and actually went to one that looked quite a bit higher from what they've been selling them at. But Ozarks Regional Stockyards there in West Plains, Missouri, 3,200 head for their sale. Feeders were steady to $3 higher, and some feeder heifers as much as $5 higher. That's a good quote there. Steer calves steady to $4 higher, but the heifer calves steady to $2 lower, just not as attractive to buyers to put big strings of stocker heifers and heifer calves together this time of year. But Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, impressive sale there, about 2,200 head for them plus there. But look at the stick-out deal on this automated market report. They had nearly 600 head of 8-weight feeder steers there at Beaver that averaged 843 pounds at 130.31 on the average. That was $2.26 higher than the weighted average from last week. And the quote there, if you look, it appears that feeder steers $2 to $6 higher, feeder heifers steady to $3 higher. But you know, why is that those index levels staying over a 130? It's because these 7 weights are selling so good. 229 head there at Beaver of the 7 weights averaged 757 at 141.14. That was up $6.22 from last week's weighted average on the 700 pounders. Pretty good quote there. Actually went out to Lone Star Stockyards on Tuesday out of Wildorado, Texas. Bill Martin, the manager there, finally getting some legs under that facility. Got my friend Tom Schooler in there as assistant manager, and they've got that barn kind of rolling. It's been in existence for about a year now. So everybody's getting to know that it's there. They're pushing it pretty hard. Had over 2,500 head of cattle on Tuesday there. They called the feeder steers $3 to $6 higher, and they sure look that way to me. And in fact, a lot of heavy 8-weight cattle in there, 550 head of them, from 850 to 900 pounds, averaged right at 132. So that's pretty good, I tell you what. And I tell you, I'm glad to see them getting that sale barn kind of on the map there, where it's consistently having good runs week in and week out. How about some individual quotes? OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, had their calf sale always on Tuesday. They'd be selling feeder cattle on Wednesday here, but 107 head of 524-pound steer calves in El Reno bring $180. That's a pretty impressive quote there. How about Caldwell Livestock Market? That would be Enid North there, but Dakota Davis there. It was actually one of the few quotes that I saw on loads of feeder steers where they had a front figure of an 8, and they brought as close as they did to what the board's bringing. And they had 50 head, 803-pound feeder steers at Caldwell, Kansas, bring 136.10. And that was close to what your board's trading at, but still didn't quite reach it. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, and your Zach Tran top quote for the day, come out of Messina Livestock Sales in Messina, Iowa. 70 head, 777-pound feeder steers, 144.75. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.